Hello, everyone, and welcome to Movie Club. I'm Davinia.
I'm Kyle.
And I'm Miro.
And today we're talking about Adentro, The Sea Inside.
A feel-good film from...
Oh, yeah. This movie talks about the story of Ramon Sampedro, who fought a 30-year campaign to win the right to end his life with dignity. That's basically it.
Yeah, and it also shows a very important question. Well, important. It's very difficult moral question about the euthanasia.
Assisted suicide.
Yes.
It also explores Ramon's relationships with two different women, right?
Yeah.
Oh, he was such a womanizer.
Yeah, he was a real horn dog.
Yeah.
How crazy is that? So yeah, one is Julia, his lawyer, who actually supports his case at the beginning. And then we have Rosa, who's a local woman from his town.
I would hope that his lawyer supports his case.
who wants to convince him that life is worth living.
Yeah. Also, just to point out, I don't know if we said it, he had an accident when he was 25 and broke his neck diving into the shallow part of the sea and broke his neck like it was too shallow. And he was distracted or not paying attention or thinking about it. And then he's a quadriplegic, paralyzed from the neck down.
And it is true. I read about this case and
True
he
story.
did actually do exactly the thing that was portrayed in the movie.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same exact cutout story from the real life. Some names change a little bit. Rosa is Ramona, I think, in real life.
But you can't have Ramon and Ramona.
Can you believe that? Yeah. I was like, oh man. But yeah, it's pretty much the same exact story.
And who's the director of this film, Davinia?
Alejandro Amenábar. Even though it's like a Spanish name, I have a hard time pronouncing his last name. I gotta say that.
Yeah, he's a very well-known director. Great director from Spain.
Davinia, what did you thought about it?
It was a good movie, like for what it was and the story was telling. Probably if it was put into a different director's hands, I wouldn't be saying these words. I've enjoyed it. And it's an interesting thought to bring forth. What would you do? Is it okay or is it not for him to request the help of friends and loved ones to kill himself, or if the law should allow him to do so? I enjoyed it as much as one can enjoy a movie about euthanasia.
Yeah, I also enjoyed wonderful performance by Javier Bardem.
He didn't have to do that much.
Yes, but also lying still is not easy, right? I mean, how did they do the atrophy of his hands? I understand he was most of the time covered with a sheet, but even the hands where you have to hold them in that position, most of the time he was just reading a script with not much to it. But what gave me the depth of the character was when Ramon broke down one night. He didn't understand why he's not happy, why he can't be happy with the life he has. And he broke down in tears, woke up his sister-in-law who was taking care of him, and she consoled him. She was always there for him. Props to her for real life, Manuela, that she did all that. It was interesting to see how some people agree that, yeah, sure, you should be able to have assisted suicide, while other people, like his brother, were fiercely against it. There was a scene where he broke down and screamed at him why he's going to kill himself, because he and his wife slaved over him all these years, and for what? So he can kill himself?
Like, I felt it was a very raw family response. Probably he didn't mean to be like mean to him or in that way. Like, that wasn't
all of that, I think, was portrayal of his fear to lose his brother.
Exactly, yeah.
But also, I mean, it points out, I think, some of Ramon's selfishness.
Yeah, these people have organized their lives around him for 25 years. What shall they do when he's gone?
Oh, live their life, because it's not selfish, because he wanted to do it all along. He didn't want them to slave over him or take care of him.
We don't see any scenes of that. We only have him say that he's been miserable for 26 years.
He's engaged in a lawsuit for 28 years. So,
in any case, I think everyone in the film was pretty selfish except for Manuela. Because I would just point out as well, like, I think the crucial scene is also in the night when he has a dark night of the soul and he realizes, I don't even know why I want to die. Why can't I be happy? Because the entire film, it's not portrayed as some miserable existence that he has. He's surrounded by people that love him, that take care of him. He has friends. He has a creative life. He's an inventor. He's a poet. I think that's a very interesting point that the movie makes, to have him say that.
Despite all of this, he's miserable. He says that. Yes, he smiles. As he said in the beginning, when he was giving an interview, you will learn to cry with your smile.
Yeah, that's a phony line from a poet. When he really comes to grips with himself that night, he realizes that he doesn't know why he wants to die and why he can't be happy. You can believe what he says if you want, just at face value. But I'm trying to look deeper at what's really going on. I think it would be, for some people, quite offensive to suggest that just being a quadriplegic is a miserable life. He actually has like a good support system around him, people who legitimately want to be with him, spend time with him, and help him. And he never really comes across as miserable to me throughout the whole film. So I think it's there for a reason, that he even himself questions, why am I not happy? I've got everything, and I don't know why I want to die. Then he wants tranquilizers to kind of get rid of those feelings. He may have been suicidal even if that never happened to him. I mean, we don't know. There's a lot of people that want to kill themselves.
Yes, but I think he has a good reason for it, because he tasted the world, he traveled the world, and now he can do squat. Of course, as you said, he's a poet, he has friends. All of this can be minuscule by the fact that you are dependent every single moment on everybody else.
Well, I would say there's a lot of ways that people are dependent on each other in life.
René expressed it very well when Julia asked her, like, do you think the suicide is the best solution for these kind of problems? Are you going to suggest it to me as well? Because Julia also had debilitating disease. The point of the disease was that she got many strokes, and over time she would be just prisoner in her own body. René said, what do you think I'm doing? I'm going around and telling people suicide is the best option? No, I am for the freedom for them to choose if they want to go on or if they want to end it. That's the freedom.
I would guess that the lawyer character was invented for the film, and I would guess that there wasn't this little love affair before the end, and that this failed suicide pact. I actually didn't care for the portrayal of her. I think that we were meant to pity her at the end, that she didn't kill herself sooner.
Julia?
Yes, yeah. And I think just the way it was shot, I think in a sense it's saying like, well, she had her chance. And I just think it's a strange thing. And it's purely because she had a fear of being dead, which is quite understandable, and that everyone can kind of empathize with, except for him, for example. It wasn't like over the top or anything, but I felt bad that she was portrayed as like a pitiable creature for just being human. And it was almost like now she's in this even worse hell just because she didn't kill herself as soon as she lost control of her legs. It's a kind of a strange message to me. Or not a message, but a kind of a strange perspective on her character.
See, like, yeah, I didn't have such a strong reaction to seeing her that way, but I think you bring up good points, because again, we got to think of it as a movie, right? So why do they choose to put that scene in there, and the way they portray the advancement of her illness?
It all shows you the complicated problem that this film tries to portray. Do you live with the knowledge that later on you will not be even able to appreciate life, or you do what Ramon did? And even when you have some resemblance of life, although you can't move or be self-sufficient, you kill yourself. It's super complicated. He was manipulative and a little bit mean. I think I would be the same. I would be mean and sarcastic bastard to everybody around me. I know it's not right, but it would be my anger towards myself, probably, because maybe it would be my fault that I end up like that. And it was his fault, right? Nobody pushed him. It wasn't an accident. He did it himself, and he acknowledged that he was distracted and made a mistake here. So I think it was a natural reaction to his state, his manipulative character, and also he was mean, right? When Rosa came to see him for the first time, he was immediately, well, not immediately, but
She's a psycho.
Very soon. Yes, she was.
I thought it was going to turn into like a Misery type of situation or something.
What kind of bullshit was that? She came there randomly. I want to see Ramon.
This kind of just sad do-gooder that just, I was like, oh God, I can't stomach her for this whole. She turned out not to be in it all that much, but I thought she was going to be a much larger part of it and trying to convince him all the time to not do it.
I think it was like a good, like, despite of the portrayal of Julia at the end, and I guess it's up for interpretation for everyone, but they were both really good characters in their own way. Like Rosa, from the start, she wants to keep him alive and whatever, and, you know, try to like motivate him about life and that there's more to it than that. And then she is the one who ends up helping him doing the entire thing, whilst Julia was a character who initially supported his case, and over time she's like, well, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah.
Well, she had a breakdown at the last. She'd already bought the stuff and she just couldn't go through with it, right? It's not like she stopped supporting his case or any of this stuff.
That is true.
And I also, maybe I'm like overinterpreting that part. It just stuck out to me that there was never really any good arguments against him portrayed in the film.
Maybe like a very personal take in my regard, but I think that I just thought of them very individually, like without putting them together, which probably I shouldn't have done because, I mean, again, it's a movie and it's complete and it has all the characters in it, but they're very individual, different cases.
What's the difference between someone like him and someone like Stephen Hawking, for example?
That Stephen Hawking wanted to live. You said there was no arguments against him. I think there were arguments every day with his family, with his nephew, everybody that came to see him. The argument for him not to do it was presented to him every day. The love and care that his family and friends gave him.
There was dialogue, but the film itself wasn't presenting a real. I mean, I think maybe inadvertently it did, because I actually like thought he had an interesting life, and I found the film like I wasn't like, oh my gosh, please let this guy die the whole time. You know, I didn't feel that way about him or the situation. So I wasn't like, yes, he finally got to do it, you know. And I don't think that's what it was supposed to be. But I just saw a lot of reasons for him to live like through the film myself. And I don't necessarily think it was the things that the characters were saying to him. And that's another issue I had with the film. It's a lot of obvious discussions. I guess overall, like, it was okay for me. I think it was well directed, like Davinia said. I think in the hands of another director, it would have been a lot more sentimental and trite, but I still think it was to some degree. I don't love biographical films. It was just okay for me. It's not beating you over the head with a message per se, but the dialogue was all quite like, felt very artificial to me, or like, now they're going to have a discussion about this for the 10th time. Like it didn't feel like organic to me, or like a bunch of setups to have the debate in a sense. But for that type of film, I did think it was pretty good.
But it was like you said, they're going to have a discussion about this for the 10th time. There was a slight repetition about why do you want to die because of this and that.
I just think he didn't change at all in the film. There was no real development there. I don't know if it's true or not, but you're going to invent this like love story with the lawyer. I bet that's not true.
For what I have looked into, nothing really talks about her. So I would assume that she wasn't there and is just a made-up character for the movie, or she wasn't like a impactful enough person in his life to make it into even his bio. Probably the romance between them didn't happen, if she was even like a real person who talked with him or anything.
I mean, nobody else really changed their minds about anything. Even his brother was kind of stubborn until the end and didn't even go say goodbye to him or whatever.
Well, I mean, definitely I believe that's like the character they want you to see that didn't change at all. Like that's like the one that you know is like stubborn to
the bitter end.
They're both stubborn, the brothers.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I most pity Manuela and his father. I mean,
what
would you?
Absolute, you know, jam.
Angel. Jam. But imagine your son will tell you, I'm going to kill myself tomorrow. Goodbye.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like you're a parent and you raise the child. It must be a horrible thing to think.
And he does have a few lines that he has. One of them says something like, worse than having a son die is that he wishes to die. Which is so key too, because like they're having so many conversations, and you'd think that his father would have a lot to say, but actually is one of the ones that speaks the least.
He's too old.
Well, not because he's too old. It's just that I think he's quite of like a more thinker person. I think they want to portray him as someone who doesn't either know how to express his feelings or like doesn't want to like get too much into it because it's a terrible topic for him.
I think that it's not a terribly interesting like plot or film when you really break it down. Like it's filmed well and the performances are good, so you can kind of be carried along with it for a while. I think the more interesting story would be like, what does his family do after he's gone? I would watch a film of that. How do they cope with the absence? And after 28 years, 30 years of that, like what do they do? Do they then get depressed? Do they then want to die?
All right, let's move to the rating.
Even though it was my pick, for me it's a 6.
6 out of 10. Surprisingly low from the picker.
Yeah, but just mainly because I hadn't seen it before, and it's just when you know it's a biography kind of movie and what it had to show, it was good. It was a good movie for what it is. It's above average for me. That's good.
Okay.
I give it a 5.
Wow.
It was adequate, but it's just not my type of film. For what it was, I think it was well made, but I didn't find it that interesting. And I prefer films that have more imagination.
I will rate this 6 out of 10. Not that interesting. The only interesting thing was the question of euthanasia. So,
Like the moral of the movie is more interesting.
Than the movie itself. And I can entertain myself by researching the same topic. You know, I would be as entertained as with the movie.
And I would say too that for this film, like I'm not sure that anyone would be persuaded one way or the other by it. It's not the type of movie where you would start with one opinion and by the end you're like, okay, now I totally believe that it should be okay. I think if you watch it, you feel the same way as you did at the end as the beginning, probably, about the issue.
Well, interesting closure there.
And closure. Cut.
And cut.
Cut.
Yeah.
And there you have it, folks. You just heard our review of movie Adentro, The Sea Inside. Our average rating for this movie is 5.7 out of 10. Tell us what you think about this movie on Twitter at movieclub_pod. We would be happy if you would rate us as well on your favorite podcast platform, where you can also find more movie reviews by Movie Club. You can join Movie Club and support us by visiting our Patreon page and subscribing to one of our membership tiers. The link will be in the description of this episode. Next week, we will be talking about The Fountain. Don't forget to check it out. Bye for now.